Thank you for watching Conscious Consumer Network. The live stream broadcast is free to view. You can pause and rewind live broadcasts to catch up, or view shows at a later date by accessing our free archives of all shows. Check out our broadcast guide to see what's on. You can show your support by donating to our network support fund. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribe to the monthly newsletter for updates. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
Hello everyone, I'm Mauricio Alfonso. I'm a point of contact for the Venus project on Mexico. I'll be presenting to you a design for the future. Okay, so we observe that change is the only constant in nature. And for most of human history, change came so slowly that it wasn't considered relevant. But today we see, for the last 50 years, change has become very relevant topic. So governments and corporations now consider change management a core issue. We can see that reflected in books and college courses about business management, human affairs, technological evolution, and environmental policies. Yet there is very important ingredient missing in this analysis, which is the impact these changes have to human culture and how to use this knowledge to create a more humane world for everyone. Every time a proponent comes up with a plan to create a new society, they are looked up as impractical dreamers. We rapidly come up with excuses like, there is not enough for everyone, or human nature won't allow us. But if we really are concerned about ending war, poverty, environmental degradation, and the displacement of jobs by technology, then we cannot afford this way of thinking anymore. Either we think globally or perish individually. The future is ours to direct. To design the future, it is very important we examine our personal biases and nationalistic notions. Suppose you were called into designing this new socio-economic system. You will have to start from where we are right now. And the goal of the design will be to help to reduce as much as possible war, poverty, and environmental degradation. So I pose this question to you. What would you do and how would you do it? Will you propose a new political system? Would you base decisions on religion and mysticism perhaps? Or would you use scientific method? Would you have people trading with money like we do now? Or perhaps a new system that does not use money? Will you still need separate nations? Or how will you distribute resources? And then, what about personal choices? What if somebody wants a bigger house than the other guy? How will the system determine who gets what? Will there be an elite group of people determining this? Or perhaps no person will be involved in the decision process? Will your system be susceptible to corruption, or will it be incorruptible? We must be willing to experiment with new social arrangements if we wish to move from the primitive thinking we now endure. One of the first things to examine is our way of communicating with each other. There are many people out there trying to communicate with extraterrestrial life, yet we cannot accomplish to settle common goals between nations, for our leaders ultimately look for the optimal advantage of their own nation and institutions. People and nations still react impulsively and careless to alien cultures, and when we are emotionally bound, we fail in creating a unified and peaceful world. We have to get beyond that. Hopefully, there is a language that is universal, that transcends nations, a language that can bridge our differences, for it bridges what it speaks. This language is part of science. Only through science we can create a blueprint of an automobile, share it with other people, and they'll probably get the same result. Through science, we can share our knowledge with everyone, and when we do so, we no longer have advantage of other nations over others. Yet today this is not accomplished. So to create our desired society, first we have to know how to ask the right questions. Scientific thinking gives us that tool. What is the purpose of life? What are humans destined to do? What does God want us to be? These questions may give you a sense of purpose, but it doesn't really cope with reality. We simply can't say what is the purpose of life, and so we cannot impose on others what we think about this and what we think is the right answer. What we have here, what determines human behavior? Instead, these are questions that enable us to actually create systems and proposals to bridge the differences between cultures. Science is not biology, math, and chemistry. These are just specializations that use its tools. Science is a way of looking at the world with wonder and awe, sparked with a desire to develop knowledge based on reality. It is crucial to know where we are so that we can project what we want to be headed. Our current societies are unable to cope with changes and our leaders seem incompetent to do so. It is only in moments of war when we conscript resources and technical ability to address adversity. And if, for example, a meteor was about to hit the Earth, nations will leave aside borders, cultural and religion limitations to cope with this. Well, we currently have many common threats: environmental degradation, water scarcity, economic catastrophe, overpopulation, spread of diseases, yet we are not even close to doing everything we can to eliminate or reduce these threats. For this would require a new social system that makes the elimination of these problems a common way of life, and change is always scary. We have to admit that institutions and jobs will phase out because they do not follow technological change. We need to plan ahead of these technological changes so that we are not left behind. Remember I said that the only constant in nature is change? Well, which is why it will be insufficient to plan something that will last forever. We need a social system that constantly enables design changes. It is not enough to advocate for global change. This proposal has to be based upon the carrying capacity of the planet, utilizing natural and technical resources at its most to provide well-being for our population. Our very survival depends on these changes. We must realize that today's monetary system needs to maintain a level of scarcity to keep functioning. This is a crucial element that needs to change and is common to every system that has took place, name it socialism, communism, fascism, and the even so acclaimed capitalist system. If you have a job, I assure you are paid just enough to keep doing what you are doing and not live. And if you are not on the vast minority that does that and does what they like to do, then you just do enough to not get fired. Companies do not introduce new processes to give you extended vacation time or fewer hours of work for the same amount of money. Instead, the money goes to the already ones at the top, and now faster than any time in history. These people finance the illusion of freedom and democracy, for if it were real, there wouldn't be difference in purchasing power. Real democracy will guarantee equal access to the necessities of life for everyone. The corporate and debt-based system we have today is the evolution of the primordial forms of trade, market, and banking practices. We live in a continuous cycle of boom and bust, but this cannot continue forever. You can't keep producing when the majority of people lose their purchasing power. And even if you give money for free to people, you still cannot bring about economic sustainability if we don't change our linear economic model. You can't get stuff from the earth if we destroy its resources. The Earth has enough of them. It's just that our rationing and distributing of it is no longer relevant and counterproductive. Managed in a proper way, we could provide a higher standard of living for all, higher than the richest people of today. All we need to do is to implement a global resource-based economy. A resource-based economy is a system that utilizes available resources, technical personnel, and industrial plants to produce and distribute equitably and sustainably goods and services for the global population without money, credit cards, or any debt-based system. Resource allocation will happen when people need it. All of the machinery will take inventory information to move around to be as efficient as possible in providing for people's needs. This means no resources will be destined to be tossed out so that prices stay high. The use of current high computational power makes this possible. This new system will also provide universal healthcare, better education, and clean energy use. Some ask what people will do when they are no longer motivated by money and everything is provided for free. Well, actually people are motivated to create better tools, discover the world, help one another and restore the environment. But it is the current monetary system that makes us forget about these notions. There is really no limits to what we as humans can achieve. We will develop even new ways of relating with other people. Simplistic notions like love and hate will be replaced by the measure of extensionality a person provides for another. Everybody will embrace the new values propagated by the effects of a world with much less suffering. People will value tolerance and understanding instead of bigotry, racism, and nationalism. There will be no longer excuses to pinpoint or blame people with certain racial and cultural attributes. Another valuable thing of this future is social participation. People will be incentivized and will be given the tools to participate in designing a better language, better products, and better services, because the more everybody contributes, the richest everybody becomes. They will see the contributions being applied in other parts of the world. This will be the new meme. So resources will be at the disposal of people by using access centers and complex distribution systems. There is no point in forcing everyone to consume the same things. Even when with our current production capacity, we can create vast amounts of options, but in the future, only the best options will be available, for there is no need to create cheaper products for some markets that break down at a certain amount of time. Most likely, every home or apartment will be equipped with a TV like today, but the information will be propaganda-free. And everyone can see what's new, what's to come, and what's not available at the moment, so that demand coincides with reality. Shortages and overruns will be eliminated, accomplishing a dynamic equilibrium between economy and the environment. With all these advantages that machines provide, it is important to notice their computational capacity keeps growing. We haven't reached the limits of its potential. We have ahead many risks and challenges. Nanotechnology, 3D printing, and other developments can become a great help in aiding humans, but we also have to acknowledge the risk technology brings. Surveillance, deadly chemical, and nuclear weapons are just one example. We really cannot stop the development of technology, and that's another reason to change our social values towards the best. We have to remember that machines do only what they are programmed to do. Our technical capacity today is one that could replace more than 90% of the workforce, while keeping the same and eventually more productivity. This is already underway. We don't have to worry about our technological capacity, but our ability to provide all the benefits provided by it to everyone. Technology is nothing more than a tool to achieve the kind of society we are proposing. If we don't apply it in the most efficient manner we can, then we will deprive many people to access the best things that we can turn out. Today, we try to control people's behavior with the rule of law, but laws exist just as a failed intent to maintain a society in line. A humane society will make laws obsolete by applying real solutions that solve the problems that led to the design of the laws in the first place. This phase out the need of somebody or some group of people governing people and deciding who gets what. Throughout history, kings of tribes made the decision of who gets what. Today we have more or less the same with governments and democracies. To the question of who will make the decision on the future, the answer is nobody. Nobody makes decisions for anybody else. The system takes care of providing the needs of everyone if it coincides with resources. The real dictatorship here is only nature, and we have to adapt to its dictates to survive. We cannot just get outside of nature. But it has already been proven that we have more than enough resources to tap, for example, clean sources of energy in a sustainable way. We have wave power, tidal power, solar power, wind, geothermal, and fusion technologies underway. Even a single one of them, the geothermal use, can provide several times more energy than is required today for centuries. So in order to have a functioning society, it is imperative to analyze why and how we got to have the values we have today. It is very likely that we'll have nationalistic, discriminatory, and violent behaviors occurring during the transition to our new society. But this is not human nature. These are symptoms of the scarcity culture we live in today, and as so, they will disappear in a saner culture. It will be very naive to think that we can make the jump to a new civilization without dragging some of the remnants of the millennial cultural indoctrination. Yet, by doing nothing, nothing will change. Some of the changes people fear most today is precisely the application of technology and advocate to go back to simpler ways of life. But many fail to realize that it is our economy and what we consume that reinforces the misuse of technology. Really, it is our economy what they are up against. If used correctly, machines can liberate us to learn how to treat each other and build this community of the world. When people, and particularly students, are free of debt, free to pursue in the endeavor they desire, students may very well be the most untapped resource of today. In the future, they can become innovators, analytical of the status quo. Even a resource-based economy as proposed here will be a straitjacket for them eventually. Who knows what they could develop in a world full of real opportunities for all. From the moment they present curiosity, their creativity will be nourished. Science will become their language. They will naturally share and create new economic models, new cities, and environmental restoration methods. Cities and architecture must be redefined to project the culture we want to live. We have to conceive of physical structures for the equal distribution of goods and services and allow for reconfigurations that may take place within a few years after edifices are built. Here are some proposals that reflect this system. Cities may in its majority be circular to allow for the most efficient transportation. There wouldn't be a company making a building and another company building the streets. Cities will be contracted as a whole. In that way, trains can be arranged to move people not only between streets, but also within buildings. Recycling and other services can be part of the design for the whole residential zone, not just those that can afford it. People will be free to live where they choose, but they will have the option to live nearby their job. Actually, it is not a paid job, but it is a place where they mostly go to do research and be productive and to learn. At the beginning, when people see the benefits provided by the city to its inhabitants, we believe eventually entire nations will look up to this model and start changing towards it, forming that way the basis of the new civilization. With the new freedom gained, we will begin to see new and unexpected forms of social organisms and interactions. Parents will immediately have more time to spend with their children and to learn how to be a good parent, achieving what the promise of the American dream could never achieve, and beyond. No one can actually accurately predict the future, but we can expect some things to happen. People in the future will probably look back and wonder why we organized on nations and use technology to kill each other instead of building a global civilization. Colonization of the seas is another big opportunity of development. Oceans are full of minerals and other resources. We could also build cities in the oceans to alleviate the land population pressures. People on those cities could be dedicated to restoring marine life and developing other forms of agriculture using salted water, for example, and many other proposals. We are aware that many attempts of building a perfect society in the past, yet considering what we talk about as utopia can be misleading. For what we propose is a system that can be rearranged over and over. Utopia will mean that you reach an end and you stagnate. What we need is a vision of the future. A world without a vision of what the future can be is deemed to perish. So the Venus Project is an organization based on the ideas promoted on this video. I strongly believe these changes can't be accomplished in a monetary system. The Venus Project calls for the straightforward redesign of our culture, where money, politics, environmental degradation, and human suffering are a thing of the past. To transition from this system to the other, the Venus Project is promoting and introducing this new set of values to the general public. I want to build an experimental city to research and develop these aims. This will be a permanent planning center dedicated to further the aims of the organization, to eventually realize the declaration of the world's resources, the common heritage of all mankind. With this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for tuning into CCN. This unique network is dedicated to free and independent media. CCN was created with the belief that information is the common heritage of all beings, which is why our live stream high-definition broadcast is easily accessible and free to view. If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Having produced over 1,000 shows in 2015, which are all archived on YouTube, we look forward to bringing you more groundbreaking, cutting-edge information in 2016. For more information on what is on, please check out our broadcast guide for weekly updates. CCN broadcasts in multiple languages and features some key voices of our challenging times who are all in pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world. CCN belongs to you, the people. and it is up to you all to keep this network on the air. Please contribute to the Network Support Fund or visit the CCN shop. We thank you all for supporting free and independent media.